everybody. Welcome to our webinar talking about a behind-the-scenes look at our biology at-home hands-on lab kits. I am Leah Bishop, and this is Kathy. We'll do some deeper introductions here in a minute, but before we do that, I want to just kind of give you a brief overview of the things we're going to talk about today, and then we'll dive right in. So to start, I want to give a little bit of background about Carolina distance learning. Then we'll talk about ourselves a little bit, because who doesn't love to talk about themselves? And then we'll jump into our biology offerings, what is actually in a lab kit that comes from Carolina. We'll then look under the microscope at one of our biology labs so you can see the different components. And finally, we'll look at our media lab, a good behind-the-scenes look of what we're doing here at Carolina Biological. So to start, that's a good segue. I want to mention that Carolina Distance Learning is actually a division within Carolina Biological Supply Company. So whether you're doing distance learning or on-campus biology labs, you're probably already getting supplies from us. We've been around for 90+ years in higher ed, science education, and K-12 science education. So we have all kinds of subject matter expertise here, and we thought distance learning would be a great addition to our team. So we've been around for about 5+ years in that space. My name is Leah Bishop. I am a business development manager within the Carolina Distance Learning Division. I was a former chemistry instructor in another life before joining the team here at Carolina Distance Learning. And with me is Kathy Wheeler.
I am Kathy Wheeler. I am one of the distance learning specialists here at Carolina. And in a previous life, I was a biology instructor at a local community college.
Perfect. And you still adjunct for that?
Yes, I do still adjunct. And in fact, we use some of these materials.
Perfect. Teaching with our kids. How cool is that? All right. So if you're not in biology, but you're just kind of here to kind of learn a little bit about Carolina distance learning, I will tell you we have 8 different subject lines within our distance learning. We have biology and chemistry, physics, microbiology, anatomy and physiology, environmental science, geology, and allied health. So we're covering a lot of different subject areas, and depending upon what course you're teaching, you may need to pull in labs from different subject areas, and that's where our distance learning specialists like Kathy come in. They help completely customize the kit, pull in materials from all these different subjects, so you're not put inside of a box, so to speak, with your lab kit. Now, within our biology subject line, because that's what most of you are here to learn about, we have over 60 different labs from these different subtopics. We have the chemistry of life, cells and metabolism, animal form and function, plant form and function, genetics and evolution, and diversity and ecology. So a very wide range of labs. In addition to those labs, we have 40 anatomy and physiology labs, dissections, physiology things, chemistry background, remember, and over 20 microbiology labs. So there's tons to choose from just within the biology wheelhouse. So moving on then, a little deeper, what actually comes in a lab kit? Keep in mind that your students are doing this all from their homes, those of you that aren't quite familiar with these distance learning lab kits. So everything they need must come inside of that box. So first thing that we want to put inside that box is the safety equipment. We don't want any accidents happening, anything going in anybody's eyes. So within our safety kit, we have goggles, gloves, and an apron. We also, within all of our lab kits, include a laboratory safety manual. So you can have your students go through this manual, teaches them all of the different nice safety procedures so that you know that they're following everything to a T. Also within the box, your lab kit, we want to include what we call an equipment set. Now these equipment sets are designed to contain all of those materials that your students are going to need for multiple labs. So instead of sending them multiple beakers for all these different experiments, we want to send them at one time, and this helps save on cost, which again is really helpful with our customization. We can really place that cost and help you get right on the money that you need to be at. So also is the lab manual. We want to be sure to include those for you. We have editable data sheets, which are very handy. You can upload them to your LMS. You can include different areas in there for pictures, so your students are proving that they're actually doing the different labs, and Kathy will speak to that a little bit when she talks about the lab we're going to dive into. We also have some really great extension activities for all of our labs. So if you get through that lab manual and you want the students to learn more, you really want to question them, we have these extension activities. Kathy, would you speak a little bit more to those for me?
So for example, with the extension activities, some of them may be a discussion forum, and depending on the class, it may have a video for them to watch or an article for them to read. So for example, from the National Institutes of Health, and then discuss their thoughts on a discussion forum. And that just increases the collaboration. It increases how much they actually interact with each other and with the material that they're trying to learn. There may be additional experiments that they can do within their lab kit that they have for it, but just other ways to engage the students, you know, additional videos, additional readings, collaboration, lots of examples of how to do that and lots of suggestions.
Perfect. Another way to engage the students in these labs. Also with your lab kit, we are going to provide you with the assessment questions, so you don't have to go back in and make the assessment questions. As former teachers, we both want to make sure that we're giving you everything that you need. You don't have to create anything from the ground up. We're going to provide you those items to just get started and hit the ground running. So that lab kit includes everything you could ever want. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kathy, and I'm going to actually let her dive in and show you one of our specific biology labs. Now, we picked this lab for a couple of different reasons. First, we wanted to be able to show off the depth of the lab, but we also wanted to show off the lab manual itself, which Kathy will go through. And finally, we wanted to show off the media, because we are going to give you a preview of our media lab today as well. And this lab uses that media we make in-house.
So one thing I did want to point out, because we've had some questions about it, when a student gets a box in the mail, how do they know which investigation they're going to do? How do they know what the equipment is? And for example, on the the safety set, you'll notice it has a label. All of the investigations come like this. They're packaged together and they are very well labeled. So when a student opens the box, they know what each part of, or what each component in that box is. They know exactly what lab they need to get.
Perfect.
So with the lab manual, here's an example of our lab manual. So today we're going to look at the microbial inhibition by spices. With the lab manual, they have first a way to orient the student. So they've got a table of contents. The table of contents, because this is available as a digital version, is clickable, so students can directly go to the section they need to go to. There is a brief overview of the lab telling students this is what you're going to be doing in the lab, and a list of outcomes. These are skills or knowledge that you should gain from doing this lab. There are time requirements so that a student can plan for having enough time to do the lab. You don't want a student to start a lab and 20 minutes later they realize, oh, I needed some additional time. So it tells them exactly how long to plan to do this lab. After the time requirements, there is a background section. So on the background section, this is a more detailed background. It has the basics that they should know before they get into this. And it's very rigorous. So when we write these, we all have backgrounds in teaching science. And so we write this with the knowledge that students will need some additional information. After the background, we have the materials section. So we've got a list of the materials and where they need to find them. So for example, in your materials kit that comes with the lab, you will have these items and where we have them pictured. We also have, if they have any equipment that they will need from the basic equipment set, we'll have that mentioned there too, so they know I need to get a graduated cylinder or a ruler. Very important, safety. Every lab manual has a safety section or the safety page, and it says exactly what PPE they need to use. Do you need to use gloves? Do you need to use goggles? Should you wear your apron? Moving on to the procedure itself, it's a detailed procedure. It's got explanations of why you're doing various things. When we have gone through this and developed these labs, we've realized that there are some places where students just need to have a little bit of extra information, or maybe areas that a demonstration would help. And in these, there are links in some places to videos. It's got a little play icon, and then it has a link to a video. So for example, how to make a surface disinfectant. How do you make a 10% bleach solution? How do you use it? How do you use sterile inoculation tools? So there are videos for some of the, there are procedural videos. What does it look like when someone does this? And that gives students a little bit more guidance. Also in here, one of the important things to point out, the camera icons. I love these little icons. This is a place that shows a student, hey, stop what you're doing, take a picture of where you are in your lab right now. I like to get my students to take a selfie so I know that it was in fact them doing this lab. It's a way to reduce the amount of potential sharing of photos. So I have them put themselves in there, or I'll have them draw a picture of some random item that I chose that week. Like draw a picture of an apple. But in this, once they take the picture, they can put it into the Word document that's a lab report template that I post for them to use. Note, we also have detailed instructions of how to dispose of everything, especially when you're looking at a microbiology lab. Students want to know, how do I dispose of these cultures safely? We've got that taken care of. That's something we have taken into account. Getting specifically into this lab, so the microbial inhibition of spices. The general concepts of the lab, this was written for a biology course, for a general biology course, to introduce students to the topic of microbiology. However, you could also use it easily in a microbiology course because it has the same specific skill set. With the general concepts, it's an introduction to microbiology. It talks about the relationship between food and food spoilage by microorganisms. It also talks about antimicrobial agents, so bactericides or bacteriostats, and their mechanisms. So the background has detail about how antibiotics or how different antimicrobial agents work. Is it the cell wall? Does it affect protein synthesis? So it gets into a little more detail about that. With the skills that students gain from this lab, so just starting with the basic scientific skills that students need, experimental design is part of this lab. It talks about experimental groups, control groups. It talks about positive and negative control groups. So going back to the basics of science and making sure that that gets repeated in these labs. It also guides the students through the data collection and analysis. So they are definitely collecting the correct data that they'll later need to analyze in the lab report. Another specific skill they gain is aseptic technique. Again, this is important in microbiology, but it's introduced here in a general chemistry course. They talk about, or we'll talk about, media preparation, which we also have a video about how we do it here, and also about how to culture bacteria. So these are skills that the students will have to perform, and they will have to have pictures to prove to an instructor that they've done this. They've poured their agar plates. They have successfully cultured their bacteria. With the rigor, again, this is professional stuff. This isn't necessarily, you know, the what do you have in your kitchen cupboard type of chemistry. These are professional materials. We've got Petri dishes that the students need to use. They'll make, so we've formulated the agar. They need to melt their own agar. They need to pour the agar into the Petri dish. They need to let it solidify. So they're learning a lot of how this type of science is conducted. They also will then, I forgot my slant. They will use their live culture that they get in the mail from Carolina, and they will use that culture to inoculate Petri dishes. So these are, again, safety is very important to us. This is a safe bacterial culture for students to use, and they get, they learn how to use the tools, and then they'll get some results that look like that. But this is as rigorous as a lab that you would do in a face-to-face lab. It's the same materials that you would use in a face-to-face lab. We might use a slightly different strain of bacteria, but it's one that's definitely visible and workable and safe at home. And again, safety, especially when you think about microbiology courses, is always something you would think about. So again, we describe what kind of PPE to use. We describe how to dispose of everything once you're done, to just really double check that everything is disposed of safely.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so before we jump in and take some questions, I would like to jump over to a quick screenshot video of our media lab, where we actually culture our own bacteria and prepare the media for your students.
We go through how to calibrate the machine for dispensing media into test tubes, making sure that the cap is left slightly loose after you've capped it for it to go into the autoclave for sterilization. Once the media comes out, the tubes are left sitting until they gel, and then we tighten the caps down and put the label on appropriate for that particular media. We had some teachers that had inquired about whether we have bioluminescent dinoflagellates. So we love to hear teachers that they're asking for something that we don't carry, that we could look at maybe providing it for them.
We are so very proud of our media lab, proud to say that we culture our own bacteria and prepare our own media. That way, if there are ever any issues, or if you're just as a faculty member have some questions about the media or how your students prepare the media, we have the expertise here in our company to help answer all of those questions. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions, if you hover over the screen, a little bar will pop up across the bottom and you'll see a chat button. If you click that button, you can type in, say hello, and also send us your questions so that we can answer them now that we are here together. So while we wait for a few questions, I'm going to pull this up real quick and just show you some of these components again within the environmental equipment set. We've got some beakers, test tube rack, graduated cylinder, test tube, forceps, thermometer. So really those things that you need for almost all of your biology experiments. All right, so we have some questions coming in. Let's see, first question here we have, how do the students receive the bacteria being used in the lab? Great question. Kathy?
All right, so for this lab, we ship the bacteria to the students. So within their lab kit, since they're not necessarily going to be doing this lab as the first lab, we don't want the bacteria to die before they get to it. There's a little card, and they will send Carolina that card before they're ready to do the lab, and then we will directly ship the bacterial cultures to them. With some of the microbiology labs, the skills that for the microbiology courses, the students need to have the skills to grow bacterial cultures. So with the microbiology labs, sometimes it's a little bit different, where they receive the cultures immediately because they're expected to be able to nurture these cultures through the semester. With this, since it's really geared very much toward a general biology class, we keep the culture going and we ship it to them when they are ready to use it.
So there's a card in the kit that gets to students when they're ready, a week before or whatever it may be. They go online, they say, hey, I'm ready for this, and we ship it out to them. That way, like Kathy said, the bacteria aren't dying prematurely. Great question. Next question, how are the lab manuals delivered to students? Great question. So being former teachers, and most of our team is former instructors, we know how important it is to have flexibility in how you use the content. We all like to teach our own way, so we really want to tailor that to you so that you can make those decisions. So we provide you a Dropbox with these lab manuals in PDF format for you to use. Most of our instructors are adding them right into their learning management system. Again, those assessment questions we talked about earlier, the editable data sheets, the extension activities, all of those go right into your learning management system that the students are already familiar with and already using. So you don't have to teach them a new system. They don't have another login username and password. It's very seamless for everyone. And then semester to semester, just like you always do, you would copy that course shell and you have your labs all ready to go. And the benefit to that is those links that Kathy was talking about that come in the lab manual for videos, those are then clickable from right within your LMS. So when the students get to that spot, they need to watch that procedural video, they click the link, and it all pops up very seamlessly for them.
And I just want to point out that since we host those videos, they don't need to sign on to anything else. They click the link, the video will automatically pop up for them.
Perfect. And we do work really, really closely with all of our faculty members that use our kit. So in semester 1, you come across the procedure part, you get 30 emails from your students with questions, you let us know, and we will make a procedural video for that so that you don't have to field those questions next semester. Now, most of that our DLSs have already gone through. They've already picked those sticky points. They put in the videos. But in case you find something that maybe is a little more difficult for your students, we are happy to jump in and help. We have the equipment and the area to make those videos for you. All right, let's see. Any other questions we have here? Let's see. If the microbes are slow to grow or even not growing at all, are students able to call in and get a replacement? Great question. Kathy?
Yes. However, in this case, with this specific lab, when we ship the microbes out, we check to make sure that they are growing. So we can, see that they are growing in the tubes when we ship them out. However, if something happens to those microbes, we do have a very good customer service team here. Call, we can take care of that.
Yes, absolutely. And that fantastic customer service team is around for your students and all of their other needs. If they get something that's broken in their lab kit, very rarely happens, but if it does, you call, we send out a replacement. They're a fantastic team that we have.
Or if they melt their beaker.
Oh yeah, if they melt their plastic beaker.
Yes.
All right, next question we have here. How can I see what labs you have available? So if you go to carolina.com/distance learning, you will come up to our website and you can actually go to a spot where you can, what we call build your own kit. And from there, you can see the full list of all the labs that we have in every subject. We like to be very transparent with that. So on that site, you're going to see the lab title, the outcomes, the materials required, and of course, the cost of that lab. We want it to be very transparent so you can see those things up front. We also really love to send out sample kits. Faculty sometimes have a little bit of reluctance taking their labs online, and maybe even sometimes some administrators are a little bit reluctant for it. So to be able to see the lab kit, get your hands on it, see that it's just as rigorous as those on-campus labs. It's not kitchen chemistry or kitchen biology. It's very high quality. We love to send those sample kits out. So please contact us. We've put that information in the chat box. So please reach out to us. We'll send you sample kits of any of those labs that you're interested in poking around a little bit more. Let's see, I don't see any other questions. If you have them, send them in. We'll get those answered. Kathy, do you have anything else you want to add?
I just would like to add, when you go to the website and you try to build your own kit, feel free to look at other disciplines. So if you've got a class and you want to add a microbiology lab or an environmental science lab to it, we can do that. We can help you with that. We're glad to help.
Great way to round off your students and add some of those environmental science labs in too. So please reach out to us. Again, back to that reluctant faculty, we love coming to campus, bringing all of the things with us, meeting you face to face, maybe even an online webinar just like this where we can chat with your faculty, answer the questions that your faculty have face to face. We love doing all of that. We want to help, whether you're just getting started with distance learning, you're already in distance learning, whatever that may be. We really want to be there to help and support you and make it the best that it can be. Thank you, everybody.